Hello, my name is Ashley Basham and I am in Secondary Education 521. And in this classroom we are going to be presenting the picture word inductive model. So the picture word inductive model is an inquiry-oriented integrated language arts approach to developing literacy. So what this means is it is taking a picture and it is taking language arts, your English language, and it's incorporating it into the classroom. For reading, that is a little easier. For other subjects, it might be a little more challenging. But how this model works is you have a picture, and in that picture, you pick out a word, whether it's a tree, a house, or a historical figure, and then you pick out all your words in the picture, and then from there you write them on flashcards. This is also to incorporate sight words, so you have them on the flashcard. So like, let's just say one of your words is a tree. You have on your flashcard tree, and that's something you need to incorporate and to memorize. This model usually lasts about 2 to 6 weeks. It's short for PWIM, and it goes by the see, say, model. And I know that sounds a little complicated, so that's why I kind of put it out like this. So you see the word, so when you first see the word, you see it on the picture, and then you next see the word on the flashcard. So from the picture, you have it on your flashcard. From there, you say the word. So I'm saying the word tree. And then from there, we spell it, T-R-E-E. And then from there, you say it. So you see it, you say it, tree, T-R-E-E, and then you say tree. And then this really is for sight words, and that's what it was really designed by, was for sight words. And in the textbook, it talked a lot about the reading aspect of it. The examples it gave and the stuff that it portrayed was all in the reading realm subject. So for those, I know I saw there's a lot of math people in the classroom. I'm also a math person, so I wanted to incorporate some math into this. So here I have a picture. My mathies probably know what this is, Pythagorean theorem. So when introducing this, depending on your curriculum, depending on your school, should all somewhat be the same. But this usually gets introduced maybe 6th, maybe 7th grade, sometimes 5th grade if they're in an advanced program. I know that at my school district, it is shown to 6th graders and it is taught in 7th. So by some realm, they are understanding of what this is. So for the sake of generalization, let's just say we have 6th graders. They have never seen this before. They don't know what this is. So we're going to use the picture word inductive model to teach them the Pythagorean theorem, or at least the basics. This is not the whole in-depth details. This is just the big bubble outline of the Pythagorean theorem. So we have our picture, which is, this is what a basic, you might have a couple angle lines here, a couple angle lines here, but in the net gist, this is what you're going to see when you look at the Pythagorean theorem. You have a right angle, you have A, C, and B. So when we first look at this, you have C is usually your hypotenuse, which usually means it's your longest side. Then you have your two legs, which is A and B. Now your two legs are going to be adjoined by a right angle. Right angles are usually shown by a box. Now when you get up into higher math, you can maybe see a line, but more than likely it's standard to see a box. Then you have your formula, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So when looking at this, and if I was working with this with my students, the two, if I wanted to bubbleize this and pick something in general out of this, the main thing is whenever I see this, I want to think Pythagorean theorem. The next thing is when I see this formula, I want to think that's the Pythagorean theorem formula. The other thing is I want to know if this is the hypotenuse. I had a student call it the hippo. So if it helps you memorize hypotenuse, hippo, whatever floats your boat, that's just how one of my students learned it. I think it's kind of cute. So it's the hypotenuse. And then you have your two legs, which is adjoined by a right angle. So I would do flashcards, but they're tiny, and it's hard to see tiny print, so I'm going to kind of blow them up on here. So this would be the front of one of my flashcards, and it's going to show, like I said, the whole thing. You have all your angles, you have all your sides, you have your triangle, you have your formula. So this would be on the front of the flashcard. And then on the back of the flashcard, you'll see Pythagorean theorem. So that way, when you see it, flip it over, you should know it's the Pythagorean theorem. From there, our next card would be our a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So our a squared plus b squared equals c squared, you know, you should be able to spit that formula out. I know our algebra teacher in high school, it actually requires the students to have this memorized. It is provided for you on the test in our school district, but she does have pop quizzes where you have to spit that formula out and you need to know it. It's not a hard one. It's not like the quadratic formula where it's this long thing with a square root and everything else that's attached to it. It's really simple. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. So they get this card, and then from this card they should flip it over and they should know that that's the formula. So the next thing that we're going to look at on our flashcards is, and this one's kind of a little tricky. You can't just put this up there. You could, but I want them to know that, you know, it always, if it's an obtuse triangle, if it's an acute triangle, the Pythagorean theorem will not work. So for the net gist of things, we're going to say always have a blank angle. And from there, the students need to fill in the blank, which would be on the back of the card. Now, I've added this, and you could not, but I added this right angle to it, because sometimes, you know, whenever they see this, it stumps kids. I have a lot of students last semester that were picture-oriented, or they love to see examples. So you have your words and you have your pictures, therefore it covers two types of learnings. So that way it could really touch on some of those students that might not understand just the wording of it. So on this flashcard, I'm going to flip it over to the next one, and it's going to say a right angle. So always have a right angle. So the last few flashcards are the hypotenuse or the hippo. And I just show a line. I make sure this line is bolded. It's not too, you know, thin, but I make sure it is in the same position. And I would put that this is the hypotenuse or the hippo, because hypotenuse is really big, especially for sixth graders. Especially if you have fifth graders, that is a really big word. So that's why I keep using hippo. So you have the hypotenuse, and you want to make sure it's in the same, so it looks just like the hypotenuse. So for this flashcard, you know, we can see it. We see that it's a line. We can think of what it is, and we're going to say it's the hypotenuse. And on the back of the card, you have hypotenuse. So our next and our last cards is A and B. We see we have a right angle, but that's not really what I'm looking for. A and B are known as the legs. So when we have A and we have side B, it's giving us, think of it as feet. You have feet sticking out connected by a hypotenuse. But when the students see this, they should think A and B are legs, which is on the back of that card, legs. And so finally, I have my picture, so I can just keep this up here. So the big gist of this is there's only 5 flashcards in this. You could do more, you could do less. This is just kind of a bubble of the Pythagorean theorem, just kind of the gist, the basics, the main things you need to know before you start working with the Pythagorean theorem. Because if you don't know that these are the legs, you could get a word problem that asks you for the legs and you not know what they are. Another thing that I really like about this model is it is very student oriented. So whenever you are up here as a teacher and you're presenting this model, you as a teacher present it. You have your picture up here. My computer screen isn't as fancy as everybody else's, so I can't just go and draw a line over here, but as a teacher you can pull this up on your whiteboard, Promethean board, smart board, whatever your school district provides, and you can draw a line out here and say, okay, this is a leg, draw a line out here, this is a leg, draw a line, hypotenuse. As a teacher, you can instruct this part of it. The second part of this model is all student-based. So as a student, you can have them write on their flashcards, and as you just saw, you have one side, which is your picture, and the other side, which is what it is. And students can practice this. You can spend a day, or you can have like every Fridays, or every Tuesdays, and you can practice this. You know, my school district only allows us 40 minutes in the classroom per day. So for that 40 minutes, we can get in teams of 2 or 3, and we can practice it. Or if you want to take it a step further, you can make a game out of it. You know, that would really get students involved and have fun and talk to their peers and make it, you know, just do something fun with it. You could take this into a 2-day lesson plan. You could take this into a week lesson plan. But I would keep incorporating this, or make it a warm-up. Like, hey, get your flashcards out, find a partner. We're going to do this for about 10 minutes and start our lesson. And then after you think the students, you're the teacher in the classroom, once you think the students understand this, and once you think the students have them down, in our district we have binders. They have to keep up with a binder of all their notes. We would get like a little clear plastic sleeve, put the cards in them, staple the top, or just, you know, make sure the top's sealed, and have this as one of their notes so they can come back to it for a test. Because once you're done, and once the students are done practicing and you can see their progression, you can quiz them on it. You can give them just the front of the flashcards, like just pictures of like this. And they have to label, well, this is the formula, this is the legs, this is the hypotenuse. So that way, 1, you get your instruction in, 2, you get your student interaction in, and sometimes the students, like I said, could play games, warm-ups, your weekly warm-ups, there it is right there. And then you can assess and see where they are in their knowledge base for this. And I'm not 100% clear on, because I'm 8th grade, so when they come to me, they already know this, so I'm not 100% clear on what grade level, but in 8th grade, this is on the STAR test. I've seen it on the STAR test, I've seen it on previous STAR tests. They need to know this. And also in 8th grade, we build on just the Pythagorean theorem. So having that base would really help. Now, this is a math model, and the textbook it showed a reading model, but you could do this for science, like for cells. Like you could label the cells, like have a picture of, well, this is, I'm not a science geek, so I'm probably gonna get this totally wrong, so if you're science, please bear with me. You could have like a picture of the cell, and you can have a picture of, oh, well, that's this part of the cell, and use the flashcards for that. Or you could do it for Spanish. This would be a really great thing for Spanish, because you could have like hola on one side and hello on the other side, and that's all I know in Spanish, so don't quiz me on anything else. And then on the other subjects, you could do this for PE, different like, you know, workout exercises. You could do this, like I said, reading's a good one, and spelling. This is really great, especially for the EC through 6th level students, because it was based around sight words. So those like kinder, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grades, when they're really practicing those sight words and really enriching in those languages, this would be really good for them, so that way they can understand the sight words, understand words in general, and help them progress in the English language. By the time they get to secondary teachers, you know, learning the acronyms is still very important. I keep a word wall in my classroom 24/7, because, you know, you never know when it's going to show up on the STAR test. That STAR test is so unpredictable. So, and it would help out with a lot of other subjects. History would be a great one for this. Like I told you earlier at the beginning of the presentation, if you have a picture of a historical person, or, you know, like in 1942 this happened, which I don't know what happened in 1942, or, you know, in 2001, you know, the Twin Towers, and that way it can spread across all grade levels, and also it can really get the students involved, because you have that teacher instruction, so you have control, you have that initial instruction, so you can guide it, but then after that, it's all in the students' hands. The students can learn themselves, the students can learn to the best or not to the best of their abilities, depending on their work ethic, and you can monitor that learning. So you've already done your part, and then after that, you can monitor the learning. And like I said, there's games, warm-ups, just a whole day of just, you know, think, pair, shares. There's so many possibilities you can do with this. And it doesn't just have to be, you know, the see, say thing I showed you at the beginning. You know, you could mold it into what your classroom needs, but still have that general concept of, you have a picture, you have flashcards, you assess. Which, to me, for something doing, now if we were going to really go into like learning how to work the Pythagorean theorem, like plugging in variables, then that wouldn't really work out so well. It could still work, but not as well as I'd like. But just the initial, hey, we need to realize what this is, so that way if they see this on the test, or if they see this on the STAR, that's the Pythagorean theorem. And that way it also shaves off time, because if they see that this is the Pythagorean theorem, they know that formula off the top of their head, they don't have to go look for it on their STAR sheets. or they don't have to try and, think of it off the top. They know it, it's in memory, it's in sight memory. So that is my presentation for today on the inductive word model. To me, as an 8th grade teacher, I wouldn't use this my whole entire lessons, but it would be something nice to have a general concept of an idea. And like I said, reading and English language is probably where you're going to see it the most, but it can be incorporated, like I just incorporated into math. It can be incorporated into other subjects. It just depends on your school district, just depends on what you want to use it for. You're in control of what you want to do with this. So I thank you for your time, and I hope that you learned something. I'm sorry for the technical, I can't write on this, I'm sorry for that technical difficulty, but I hope you got something out of this, and I hope you understand what this model could be used for, and I hope you find a place for it in your classroom. Have a good day.